Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast and talk show where we have digital discussions from the worlds of TV, film, news, pop culture, music, sports, lifestyle, everything really depending on the guest. We talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. On social media, you know me as PD Beats. My guest will star in an upcoming Netflix series called Tiny Pretty Things. We're with Bayardo De Murguia. Bayardo, welcome to Popternative, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Ballet for life, fool.
I know, but it's pretty cool, right? Because you see it with like the Queen's Gambit with, the world of chess and everything. I mean, we kind of get these shows that kind of give us glimpses of lives like ballet, the world of ballet that we didn't really kind of maybe know about before that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's really, we're so excited to have everyone watch the show because it's not only a show that we made for, of course, the dance community, but it just shows you real people within this world. So it's going to attract everyone. And I'm just excited for have people check it out.
Absolutely. And it's pretty funny because my first question I always ask is, when did you decide to be a storyteller? Because storytelling kind of encompasses a lot of different things, whether you write, whether you perform music or dance or act, you're all a storyteller, right? So for you, for Bayardo De Murguia, when did you kind of decide that storytelling was something you wanted to do?
I played sports in college, so I was a football player. And the whole kind of performance part of it was something that attracted me. Especially performing in front of a group of people and doing that. So it was around college where I ended up taking theater classes, and just to be able to use my mind, my body, my voice to create these characters and draw emotions from those watching was just so much fun. And me coming from an immigrant family too, it's like, the more that I saw any type of representation about me was amazing. And I just wanted to kind of continue in the path of be a storyteller and also be able to create these stories, in the same way that I watched something for the first time and was just compelled.
Oh, absolutely. And you kind of mentioned theater, and I feel like that's kind of where you all learn your craft, right? Like productions and like theater, stage production. I feel like that's kind of where it all starts a little bit.
Yeah, man. And it's like, you definitely learn how to be one in tune with yourself. And as soon as that comes, your mind, your body, how to use your voice and put all that together. And then you get to perform on stage, and there's nothing like live theater, man. I'm just so grateful that I had that opportunity in the beginning,
It's funny. I saw an interview recently on a show, another show called Love of Acting, where it's my friend Alan, he interviews a lot of, actors. They literally just kind of talk about acting. They get really into it about acting. And he was saying, there was some Kim Rhodes, who was in Supernatural, was talking about how you really kind of fall in love with acting when you're on stage, when you're doing the theater. Do you agree with that assessment a little bit?
I completely agree with that, man. And it's like, it's also for me, it's always about connection with your scene partners, with your audience, just like being able to connect with everybody and being in tune. That whole feeling is just like, it's just so wonderful. So
Tiny Pretty Things, I mean, it's calm before the storm, right? Like, this thing's about to kind of get released to the world on Netflix soon. It's exciting.
Yeah, man. We've been, as a cast, like, we're all on a thread, so we all keep texting each other, and this is like different time zones too. So we're just super excited for it to finally be released. We've put so much like work into it. We essentially created a dance troupe and company with all the work that we did with the dance too. So just for people to watch it and be compelled and jump into the stories that we've created, it's going to be awesome.
So can you, without obviously giving away, I mean, you play Ramon, talk a little bit about your character and talk a little bit what we expect. I mean, it's the world of ballet and everything, but can you go into a little bit of detail of what we can expect from your character?
So the show itself is based off a book called Tiny Pretty Things. And what we did is we adapted the book and then turned it into a Netflix drama. My character isn't in the book, but what we did was we adapted the book, we upped the stakes, and kind of continued with the world that was created. The beauty of our show is that these are all real people in this like cutthroat world of ballet.
Absolutely.
And so who you like in the beginning, you might hate at the end. Who you hate in the beginning, you might like at the end, like everyone makes decisions along the way, secrets come out, which is what makes it, great TV. And my character, it wasn't in the book, but I get brought into the school. In the very beginning, something happens to one of the star students. And so to kind of take focus away from everything that is going on with that, they bring in an ex-dancer who is now a kind of bad boy choreographer, to come in and kind of shake things up. And so my character is that person. I'm an ex-student who comes in, he's very avant-garde, he pushes everyone. And the best way that I can compare it is like the movie Whiplash, like kind of
my
that.
favorites.
Yeah, I'm kind of that style of teacher. Like I do whatever I can to manipulate you to get the best out of you, even if that means getting the worst out of you. But Ramon is passionate. He's fiery. He doesn't care if you're a student or you're a teacher. He's going to treat everyone the same and be blunt and honest and, mess with everybody because it's fun too.
Now, for people that kind of looked at, teasers and trailers and kind of read up about the series, I mean, it dives into the world. And you said it's a drama on Netflix, and it looks like it's going to show, an intense, dark side of the ballet world. The first thing that kind of came to mind with that is one of my favorite movies, Darren Aronofsky's Black Swan, is a movie like that. Is it kind of interesting that there's kind of already kind of literature like Black Swan out there that maybe people who really love that movie are going to be like, because there are people that's their favorite movie, right, Bayardo? They're going to be like, oh man, now there's this show like Tiny Pretty Things. Have you ever thought about past like work and past content kind of working together with new content? Yeah. That's an interesting theory, I feel like.
Yeah, and I also think like not only does it give more exposure and interest for the dance world, it's also like a good source of inspiration, even though we're based on a young adult book, we're not really made for children. Because we touch adult timely themes, it's like this soapy, sexy version of all that. And Black Swan was really good because it incorporated, the ugliness and the darkness of what we go through as artists and as dancers. And I think our show touches a lot of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure. This question might not apply to you because you said Ramon's not in the books, but I always found that kind of interesting when, you even if it's like a biopic or something, when you have to play like a character that's based on something that already existed, whether it was in a fiction book, whether it's in like based on a real person, I feel like that could be kind of like a fun challenge for an actor because you have to kind of like bring something to life. What was that kind of like looking at a lot of your like castmates on the show that had to kind of bring a character to life that was already in the novel, Bayardo?
Yeah, it's I think sometimes for an actor to have to take on a character that exists, that can be really tough. I mean, there's actors that are like, I didn't watch any of the previous movies, I didn't read any of the comic books, I just did my own thing, which I think that's great. With my background as a sports guy, I'm so used to watching tape that I love to watch what other people did and then create my own version out of that.
Absolutely.
The beauty of Ramon is that I had the liberty to be a little bit more like, free with what I wanted for the character. Mm-hmm. And the more conversations that I had with Michael McLennan, our showrunner, it was actually really cool because we would just kind of throw ideas at each other. He would create his, base through line for Ramon. Mm-hmm. And then I could actually just do research and bring in more ideas from what I learned in the outside world and then what I had inside to be able to create that. And sometimes you don't have that liberty, you have to stay true to what was given to you, and there might be a fan base already and you want to stay true to that. And I think that's a lot harder. Mm-hmm. But thankfully I was able to have a little bit liberty with Ramon and have a lot of fun. So.
Absolutely. You mentioned the sports stuff. You played sports, and so I have a question I want to kind of ask you that I find really interesting because I also interview a lot of athletes, like a lot of like prospects, but a lot of professional athletes as well. And I always ask them this question. I feel like you can also adapt this question, this theory I have, to the performing arts and people that you've worked with kind of on the show. So basically, there's a lot of people. We know that there's a lot of young athletes out there that, although they're very young, they have become superstars at a very young age, right? So they're kind of like very good at what they do at a young age. And it's interesting because they're playing, especially in junior hockey, they're playing and they are people are watching them, and there are people that look up to them that are younger. They look up to these like 20, 23-year-old athletes, right? They want to be them. But at the same time, they're young enough as well that they also have some people that they also look up to. So they're kind of like middlemen. And I feel like there's a lot of people on the show on Tiny Pretty Things are like that too. These actors and actresses that have been in some stuff here and there that people know them from, but they're still learning their craft as well. Have you ever thought about that, the middle person theory? It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's I can definitely relate to that because on our show you have the young students, which
Yep.
as a cast they're basically super young, well young to me, early 20s, in their 20s, and I'm in my 30s.
Yep.
And so in a way I was kind of one of the few actors that was in the middle. So like I could hang out with the young kids, and then when the quote adults were kicking it, we were setting the example for the young ones too. So I definitely can relate to that theory, because me growing up, especially getting into sports, like we didn't have social media the way it is now. And so there wasn't, I just would look up to any sports figures that I could, and then now I'm in a position where it's like I'm kind of in between as well. But I think it's definitely the older ones that have to still continue to set the example, which is what we were trying to do. But yeah, the beauty about our show is that young kids came through so much discipline with the dance world, so they already had that with it, and that was awesome because seeing these young kids be so disciplined already, which you see in sports too, that's amazing, because when they have that discipline at an early age, that just shows that they're going to have success in the future.
Absolutely. And you are Mexican.
Yeah.
And I find it interesting too because you're talking about the sports. There's Ted Lasso on Apple TV, about the soccer show. I think we're gonna go this. We interviewed him as well. Danny Rojas.
Yeah.
He's coming in basically as like the best like hot shot player to help them, and he's like from Mexico. Like that's a pretty cool thing to see, eh?
Yeah, man. I actually started watching that show like this month, and I think it's such a great uplifting.
It's such a heartwarming show too.
Yeah, and it's like no matter what happens, it just makes you feel good. And Danny Ramos, anytime he comes in, he goes, "Football is life." I'm like,
I know. Yeah, I made him kind of say that on the interview too. He's like, "Thank you, football is life." Yeah, no, it's one of those things. Whether you work on a show, whether you've been working, like there's people that have been working for a long time. There are people that haven't been working that long in the entertainment industry. There's always going to be kind of learning experiences. What were some learning experiences for you on this show, Bayardo?
I didn't come from a dance background, so this was all very new to me. When we got to Toronto, which is where we filmed, we all got together and rehearsed in dance for about a month prior to shooting.
Yep.
So that was definitely a challenge for me because it was a brand new world. The first time that I get to be on a series is, something completely new to me.
Absolutely.
But like I said, my castmates they're so talented and they were so welcoming that for me, I just wanted to put in as much work as I could to justify and the fact that I was there with them. But the biggest challenge that we had throughout the season too is that we essentially created a dance company. Like there are no dance doubles that you see on the show. So I basically experienced, being part of a dance troupe. Yep. Having rehearsal every day, recording, the same discipline that you see in stunts and you see in sports, for example, any sports movies, we had to attribute that to dance. So we had to learn, what's the best shooting schedule to be able to shoot a 4-minute dancing? How do we prepare as actors and as dancers for the shooting day? That was all new. Like I definitely have experience in going in and trying to, kill the hero and having a huge fight scene. But I learned how to kind of take that experience and set the tone with the dances. But it was also just brand new for everyone. But ultimately, what you end up seeing is just awesome. All the scenes that you see on the show are amazing. And so you see the hard work that went into that. But there was no blue.
People are excited about it, man. There's a lot of exciting hype around it. And the cast and crew you see like posting on the social media, they're excited for everyone to kind of finally see all the work you guys have done as well.
Yeah, man. And like I said, there was no blueprint for us. So it was kind of cool to see what the end result, which is great.
Absolutely. Bayardo, thank you so much for coming on Popternative, man. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
Yeah, of course, man. Thanks for having me, for sure.
So the show is coming out pretty soon. Everyone could see it very soon on Netflix.
Yep. December 14th, all 10 episodes drop at midnight Pacific time. So
It'd be amazing. And where can people follow you on social media to keep up to date with everything?
So on Instagram, my first name, Bayardo, and then the letter D. So at Bayardo D, that's where you'll find most of my hijinks, I guess. And that's basically it. I'm not a TikToker yet. I'll probably get on there at some point.
Thank you so much for doing this, and all the best with Tiny Pretty Things, man. We're excited to see it.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.